Right, hello everybody. My name is Liam Stout. I am Creative AI Lead at Hattrick Productions, and with me is Jonathan Oldfield, writer, director, and friend of Hattrick's.
Hello.
So I want to talk to you all today about an experiment that we ran at the end of last year that Jonathan was involved in, and just have a conversation with you all and with each other about it, and hopefully we can kind of lift the lid on what we did. We've got a couple of videos from a documentary we made about it, which I'll show in due course. But before I do that, just to introduce Hattrick a little bit and the team that I sit in at Hattrick. So Hattrick Productions is 40 years old this year, a TV production company founded in 1986 by Jimmy Mulville, and remains, it's still run by Jimmy to this day, and is an independent company, which means that we can, while we're quite big, we can still be quite nimble and independent in our decision making. So 3 years ago, my colleague Johnny McCausland, he met with Jimmy and asked Jimmy, are you thinking about things like AI at all? And Jimmy said, no, but you can do it for me. Why don't you set up a team, set up a lab, and just explore. And so Johnny set the lab up, and the brief was really look at everything other than what we currently do. So look at everything other than commission-based television. So at the beginning, that included everything from virtual reality, video games, to traditional theatre, independent film, and kind of bits of AI were in all of that, and were driving, it is driving the emergence of a lot of those fields. But it wasn't just looking at the different mediums and what we can make, it was also about looking at new ways of distributing content. It was about looking at new ways of getting things financed. It was very much had the sort of digital revolution in mind in terms of distribution, and was the lab was looking at alternatives to spending months developing things on the hope that a commissioner likes it enough to put it on a broadcaster or on a streamer. What then happened was last year I was brought in because Hattrick Lab wanted to look at AI not just as an enabling tool, but as a content category in and of itself. So what is AI content? What is an AI film? What can we make with it? What are the creative opportunities? What are the threats, obviously? And also little operational bits. Can we use it to make the finance department a bit more efficient, or the legal department, what have you? So I came in about a year ago and really just threw myself into this emerging medium and kind of watched everything I could and got to grips with how it works and the technology behind it and everything. And what became really apparent to us was that there was this gulf in the middle between kind of technologists who, when these video models drop, they pick it up on day one and they make an AI short film, and kind of traditional storytellers on the other side, writers, directors, who either hadn't been exposed to it, didn't understand it, or were actively against it. So we decided to use our position, which is that we know some of the best writers in the country, that's who we primarily work with and what we do, and we thought, why don't we get a bunch of them in a room, writer performers, and match them with AI people and VFX people, and put them in a situation where they have 3 days to make something funny. I should have pointed out that Hattrick primarily has made comedy across its lifespan, so Derry Girls, Father Ted, Have I Got News for You, that kind of thing. So we invited Jonathan and 7 other writer performers into Hattrick, and four AI/VFX studios, and there was a little bit of an old school, new school thing going on there. We wanted to see how the VFX guys also responded to the AI guys and vice versa. And the VFX guys were companies who were starting to explore AI in their workflows. So so we got them all in and we devised 4 teams. 3 days. We the brief was really broad. We just want you to create something funny, but we said to the AI people, we don't want pure generative stuff. We don't want generative audio. We don't want generative human beings. We want you to build around these guys, their ideas, their writing, and their performances as well, because we set up a big green screen and had a whole camera set up and everything. So I'll play the first clip.
Great writers, great performers, and conventional producers. And actually at Hattrick, we see ourselves as in a position as a big established independent production company. We think we have an opportunity in an innovation space to bring those two sides together.
Our idea is about a person called Ella who, in the 1990s, using a VHS camera, sneaks into a hotel room that has been rented by her boyfriend to catch him cheating. And she's going to record him on VHS to show that she's got proof. In the process of doing so, she accidentally presses a button on the VHS machine, which rewinds the VHS machine. And in hiding in the hotel room, she comes out to find herself at various points in history. We sort of went outside to do a test shot to see if we can turn the bit of the street outside into Victorian London. And that took you maybe 3 minutes. And suddenly we had a shot of Victorian London.
So here's kind of the more realistic attempt. But even there's like modern cars and things happening in the background. So those are the kind of things we need to spend a lot of time fiddling with.
With character creators, so often we pick wouldn't it be fun to be like someone from the 1960s, and then we build around that, really, or at least I do.
Yeah.
It is actually sort of like a companion to our imagination, maybe.
Yeah. So can you come and then like turn and then see it back? Yeah, I think that's good.
What's super essential is that the people actually using the AI have at least some sort of storytelling experience, just to understand the timing, because the AI has no taste whatsoever. It doesn't understand context. It only works on one shot at a time. It's essential to have a team like this who knows how to make something funny without AI.
You shouldn't write what's fun to write, but what's fun to read, and it's the same for AI. You shouldn't like prompt what's fun to prompt, but put it in service of the actual story and the joke that is going to be made by you.
So before I sort of have a conversation with Jonathan, just a couple more points about about the setup. So from a technical point of view, we were sponsored by FreePic, now Magnific, with their AI platform, which basically just has every image and video model in it, and so they gave us a few million free credits to give to the team to do their thing, and then in terms of the kind of deal, as it were, we promised the writers and the comedians, what you make won't see the light of day, it won't go out, so we want you guys to feel free to experiment. This is a sandbox, do whatever you want. We just want to make a documentary about it. And also from a producing point of view, from a development point of view, we have an option on each of the ideas, 6 months to develop it into something else. So whether we want to take that to a TV commissioner or make more of it ourselves and go to YouTube. So that was the setup. But Jonathan, when I first got in contact with you, I think it was a phone call, and I called you and I asked you if you wanted to do this, you and Lorna Rose Tree.
Yeah.
When I said AI initially, how did you sort of respond to that?
I think with reticence maybe would be the answer. From an artistic perspective, from a writer's perspective, there's definitely a lot of fear, reticence and worry about what it is, how it's going to be used, and especially in combination with like come and create something with it, partly because I'm not very technologically knowledgeable, and partly because of the sort of general feel or fear that our inside artistic brains are going to be farmed and taught to a machine that can do it for us. So there definitely was a bit of fear that the clincher for me, the exciting thing that turned it from something that felt a bit scary and a bit like, I don't know what we're going to get out of this, other than are you paying me a little bit of money to farm my ideas, is the feeling of this will go nowhere, this is just purely experimental.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do with this, let's turn it into a playground. A lot of the writing that I do, the comedy that I make, comes from a feeling of playfulness.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to envisage, okay, what could this few days look like? And what it turned out being for me, which was a few days of pure experiment, of taking the hand of other creatives and taking the hand of this bit of tech and going, what is it in this space? Where is it? What could it be? Where can it come from? Where can it go?
Yeah. So you guys, your idea was original, because some of the other teams brought in ideas, but you guys just came up with it on day one.
Yeah, I think we wanted to work collaboratively with the AI creators and with the technology itself. And so rather than come in and feel like we wanted to have an idea that could be enhanced using AI, we wanted to actually go, let's play around with it, see what the exciting bits are and what the limitations are, and build an idea from there. And I think in an odd way, it made it feel a little bit more like the AI was a bit of a creative partner in it, although we were definitely 100% still in charge. And it was a bit of a toddler that sometimes didn't do what we wanted it to do.
Yeah, so I've heard some people describe it as a genius toddler or a drunken intern.
Yes, hugely drunken intern vibes. Yeah. And it never got sober over the 3 days. Yeah.
So the guys that you worked with, they had come over from Germany, from Munich, Storybook Studios. What was that like working with kind of technical artists?
Yeah, I mean, artist is the right word. They were hugely artistic and hugely principled in how they worked with the technology, and that set a really important, for me as an artist, a really important grounding. They sat us down on day one and they went, let's play around, but just so you know, here's some of the rules that we apply when we approach this technology. If you'd like us to do something that feels a bit like Picasso, we're not going to put Picasso's name into this into this generative AI. So they went, we can give you something that feels like it's from that era, or give you something that feels like it's in a style, but we don't put in real people's names, we don't put in real... So they had a sort of set of rules and a set of principles in using the technology, which felt like they'd done some good moral thinking about it, which helped us actually to build a bit of a playground to play within, because then all the suggestions that we put into it, all the things that we built, felt more like we were painting with broad paintbrushes, rather than we were going, let's make a Christopher Nolan film and let's just put Christopher Nolan's ideas into this technology, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And did it, from the idea itself, what was the evolution like from the initial idea on the morning of day one, let's say? Were you sort of seeing what the tech could and couldn't do and then evolving the idea to that, or?
Yeah, I think we played around with it and we realized quite quickly that if we filmed ourselves in the AI, sometimes, randomly, it would alter us to a ridiculous degree, and that would be unhelpful if trying to make a short film. So instead we realized what we needed to try and do was flip between images of us and images that we were watching. So we came up with this idea of somebody filming a film themselves, which is how we ended up, I think you saw it in that clip, with a kind of VHS feel to it. We liked this idea of a character filming a film for themselves, and therefore it meant that we had to keep flipping the camera between reality and fake, which meant that every time we turned it away, we could generatively create something magical. Some of the big things for us as the writers was we wanted to do something with the technology in the 3 days that we couldn't have done otherwise. Yeah. Lorna and me make a lot of stuff for online, for Instagram, for TikTok. And so the question is always, why can't we just do this on an iPhone? Why do we need the technology to do this? And so for us, that was about creating worlds that we couldn't do otherwise, which is how we ended up going into Victorian London. We went into the future. We went into like the sort of Roman, like medieval Roman orgy, is where we went to as well, which you can't create on a small budget anymore. And so yeah, it was about, for us, it was about working out the limitation of what looked good and what didn't, and then actually going, what is the exciting thing we can create? Yeah. So the idea grew from there.
And were you, you were talking, and we mentioned its sort of unpredictable nature. Your reticence pre the jam, was that when you actually encountered it, was that kind of when you saw what it actually was it a comfort? Was it like, oh no, I'm in charge of this, and
Honestly,
it's not a silver bullet?
it felt a little bit like, you know, you can have a recipe for dinner, and then you can give that recipe to a new chef, or you can give that recipe to like Gordon Ramsay, and the meal will be completely different. So I felt very fortunate that our wonderful Germans who we were in touch with were excellent creatives, because I did feel, even whilst using it over that weekend, that this technology in the hands of people who were just interested in churning out slop. Don't know if any of them are in the crowd tonight, but yeah, if like in the wrong hands, it did feel like this could churn stuff out quite quickly in a way that didn't feel right, or didn't feel as artistically fulfilling. You know, you can knock out a meal in 20 minutes, or you can follow a recipe for a couple of hours, and even if the base ingredients are the same, the ultimate food is completely different. So I did feel like we still needed in charge of that technology a creative who had a vision, a creative who was flexible to work with it, a creative or a series of creatives who were just in charge of it, who knew what they wanted to do with it, or who at the very least had a set of visions that they wanted to fulfill with it. I did spend a lot of the weekend going, wow, because there was certainly a feeling of like, hey, what happens if we like go to like an orgy, and then they'd be like, da, 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 here you go, here's a version of that. The hard bit was then going, okay, can we refine that? Because then with each bit of generation that came out of it, yes, it would refine it, but then random things would sort of come out of nowhere and that we weren't expecting. So that's where the drunken element was involved.
Yeah. And it's lucky that you're with those guys, because they definitely went above and beyond in terms of, they didn't just use the kind of aggregator cloud-based platform that we gave to them. They actually were tapping into their computers back in Munich and using their comfy UI workflows and all that kind of thing. And so yeah, they were definitely really advanced.
Yeah.
Which was like, even for me, I was watching them work, and I was like, wow, that's quite amazing.
I think interestingly, like when you work in traditional TV and film, as a writer, as a director, you come across other departments. You know, you sit in an editing suite, or you work with stunt people or camera people or whatever. You jump in with other departments where they're people who are experts in that area, and that's where I did see a vision in which this technology and this way of working can slot into a pre-existing film and TV world in a way that doesn't feel like it's, in a way that feels additive. But it was reliant upon a department where the heads of those departments were extremely artistic and skilled in using the technology, because it felt exactly the same as if I'd go to an editor or a composer and say, hey, for this scene we want something a bit like this, and then they'd do their work, and then we'd work on it, and we'd direct it, and we'd edit it all together. That's what it felt like.
It's interesting, because what we did was very highly expedited development. We went from 0 to 1 in 3 days, where we had then 4 ideas that had a visual accompaniment to back them up, for very, very small budget. So for me, because I've always been, when I first, I love development, I love being in development, but when I first kind of got into it, I found it really frustratingly analog and slow, and not experimental enough, not visual enough. And I think that maybe what we hit upon there was a formula maybe for just kind of rapidly getting writers into a room and going, right, let's just come up with stuff and let's have it visualized and let's see it. And I think as you say, it's slotting into an existing process. I think maybe particularly the development process, it's an interesting place to play with AI, because you get to see your ideas brought to life instantly.
That was very satisfying. I mean, I come from a live comedy background, and the joy of live comedy is that you can have an idea in the afternoon, and by 7:30 p.m. you are in a pub somewhere speaking that idea into a microphone. So the development space in a live setting is very quick. You can get something up on a stage for very little money with very little barriers in the way. In TV and film, it feels like it's a slower process. There are often more barriers in place. And so it did feel more like a live setting in the sense that the idea to final completion was shockingly clear. Yeah.
Well, on that note, then I'm going to play the second clip. So apparently, if you want to ask a question, there's Slido. I think there's also going to be a mic, but I'll play the second clip first, and then say a couple of things about that.
Like that, the golf course in the background.
Yeah.
We're riffing now in a way that I've never riffed before, in like visual accompaniment to the things that we've already kind of come up with off the top of our heads. It's an interesting way of thinking. It's like dreaming, and like, do you know what I mean? It's like printing out your dreams almost. Like you can have these ideas and then straight away create a visual to suit it. So yeah, it's really fun.
See what I mean? That's making it really great.
I think generally you know. I went to college with people that were in the music
That's it, like that's what the music happens.
I love that.
It's like listening to a drill and then someone comes in and
Okay, so the audio wasn't great on that, but that was another team, and what they did was they recorded a podcast in the morning for an hour, and then edited that down to the sort of funniest 5 minutes, and then the AI guys took that and just ran with it and imagined this very surrealist, quite sort of Dali-esque universe, and just meandered through it as the guys were talking. And it was really interesting. It was really funny, and certainly you guys definitely perfected the hybrid approach, where we were seeing you in live action, but then using AI to go to different eras of history. Whereas what these guys were able to sort of demonstrate was a kind of effectively animation for, again, done in a very short space of time at a much lower price point. Now, I'm not saying that just generating some animation is good enough to then be broadcast, certainly, or even be put on YouTube if it's mostly that generative approach. But it really, when we all went to the pub, inevitably at the end of this, after the screening, where the films genuinely did make us laugh.
Yeah.
And I always said, if we laugh, they've worked. When we went to the pub afterwards, everyone was saying, "Oh, does this mean we can do animation now? We can do cartoons?" And it turns out, so in the months since then, we've really been sort of leaning in that direction and looking at the animation pipeline and whether or not there are little bits of it that we can bring down the sort of time and cost of doing that to make animation more accessible to us to try and sell to a broadcaster or a streamer. Because the UK hasn't really, on a global scale, in our opinion, played enough of a meaningful role in animation, even though we have the best storytellers in the world in this country. So that's the sort of reason for me playing that clip there, is we're really interested in leaning more towards a stylized aesthetic than a sort of so-called cinematic AI live action aesthetic. I happen to think that area is a bit, it still has a long way to go, whereas animation seems quite ripe for not disruption, but adjusting it in a way where we can open it up to a lot more UK writers and their ideas. And since we've gone out to writers such as yourself saying that, we've had a flood of scripts come in, because traditionally big ideas like that, or even the one you did, a lot of writers just wouldn't even bring that to the table because it's like, it's not going to go anywhere, it's too big.
Totally. I mean, the number of ideas that feel like they just die so early on because a large part of your brain goes, well, we can never afford this. This can't be made for this at this price point. It can't happen. And so the possibility of worlds that can be opened up as a result of it is pretty exciting. And that is where animation makes the most sense, because it's non-naturalistic. It audiences take a leap of faith into an unknown world anyway, and so any oddness or fun or strangeness that comes from the AI feels like it adds to it as opposed to takes it away, maybe.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of questions coming in on the Slido. I'm not sure as well if the mic. So there's a hand.
Yes, mic's coming.
Okay. So well, I'll answer this one first. So AI famously isn't funny. True.
True.
And struggles with lip syncing and comic timing. How did you make AI honor your comedy ideas and performance? Well, again, it goes to putting them in the middle of the piece and it being about their performance, not the AI's performance. AI,
Totally.
yeah, AI was building around you.
And I think I totally agree, which is that the large thing about comedy is the timing of it, and that is something that AI is absolutely terrible at.
Yeah.
Like the comic timing we were still wholly in charge of. I think it's really important to stress that you have to have a writer or a director at the core of it that understands timing, that understands pace, that understands jokes and humor, and that understands tone. Tone is another massive thing. So that it can be in charge of that and it can control it. I think using it like the more we used it for pinpoint accuracy, the better it got. When we just did broad brush strokes of things, is where it started to feel a little bit like it was just it was making some odd stuff. Yeah. It's hard though. I mean, comedy is hard timing wise. It's hard enough without also adding in an unfunny AI into it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And on just a quick note, same question but on the more animated front. Anything we're looking at doing is based on human audio, so it's not generated audio. So you're still having comedians underneath that visual delivering lines and bouncing off of each other. So that's sort of how we're trying to keep that chemistry and that spark in there. You had a question?
So it kind of speaks to what you're talking about with animation, which is that when people are watching comedy or entertainment, they're already in that space where they kind of don't care so much, maybe.
Exactly.
So do you think that AI actually maybe has a more role to play in that genre than it might do in factual or documentary or drama?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do think that. Certainly this year, it changes all the time. But yeah, very much so. I mean, we're really leaning away from the kind of, as I say, a lot of people dub it cinematic AI, and those LinkedIn posts that you see where people say, I just made a $200 million Hollywood film for £500. Actually, you've just made a £500 tech demo for that video model company, in my opinion. Whereas with animation, you're not fighting the uncanny valley thing. And as you pointed out, the audience member is already deciding to leave reality and play in a stylized space, whether that decision is conscious or unconscious. So that's why we want to go more in that direction. And because it is, as I say, historically quite a top-heavy, inaccessible medium for a lot of people. And we think combined with digital distribution, so YouTube, this opens up that medium for a lot more writers and directors and performers. Sorry?
Production companies help.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is there any others? I've got a minute and a half if anyone else has another question. There's one on here, I'm not sure I fully understand it, but what were you looking for in terms of experience, credits, attitude when looking for the comedy creators and the AI companies for this? Okay. So I think on the comedians part, it was open-mindedness, a collaborative spirit, funny, obviously, curiosity, and I think we got a good set of people. I mean, Lorna now, she's writing for SNL
Yeah,
UK.
Lorna's writing for SNL UK.
Al Nash, who was briefly in the first clip, he's performing on SNL UK. So we kind of did it at just the right time, and yeah, I mean, it helped that they knew that what they were doing was private, so there was more willingness to get involved. But the whole point of the documentary, I should have said as well, I will admit, when we first had the idea, my instinct was, well, let's do a glossy corporate promo that just kind of bigs us up. But Johnny, who runs the lab with me, he said, no, let's be really honest about this. Let's make a really transparent, honest documentary about what this process looks like. Let's capture the creative frustration as much as the wow moments and the mind-blowing moments, and so what ended up happening was, one of the team's pieces didn't really work. The comedian brought in a pre-existing idea for a sitcom, and when he saw it sort of effectively looking like CGI and that AI aesthetic, and it didn't really work for the idea, and he was honest about that, and that's what we wanted to capture. So it was just, the whole vibe was, let's just be really frank about this. And on the part of the AI companies, just that collaborative spirit, that they would hold the sort of writer comedians' hands a bit and walk them through what the tech can do, and your guys are great at that. And so I think we kind of got the right balance on both sides. So I've got 10 seconds left. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, do you want a quick one? Oh, okay, so the documentary is on my LinkedIn page and Johnny McCausland's LinkedIn page. But we can chat afterwards, and I can make sure you see it and get it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us, and have a good rest of your MPTS. And I'll be hanging around for a bit afterwards.